Here's some recent items acquired while up in Maine several weeks ago, some of which from one of the members on the screen there with us today, Steve. Let me look through a nice collection of U.S. postal history. So here we have a nice strike, which are pretty hard to find, of a RFD, Rural Free Delivery, in South Windham, Maine. So rural free delivery in very remote areas had a wagon, a horse-drawn wagon that would come up, collect mail, deliver mail, and people could buy postage from them as well. And they would perform all the services of a post office, essentially. And it's part of the area of traveling or rail, in the railway post office categories. It was a mobile post office for all intents. And it's sent, rather locally from Windham to Brunswick.
The stamp looks like it's imprinted at an angle. Is that just a distortion I'm seeing, or is that imprint actually at an angle to the side of the envelope?
Sure.
At that time, those envelopes were hand folded, so it could have been hand folded out of sequence.
Yes.
Oh, there you
go. Okay.
Consider that as a partial.
The two does kind of lean to the left a little bit. Is that what you see?
That's what I see. But
yeah,
if Stanley is right, if it's hand folded, then all bets are off. It's not a pre-manufactured envelope with a stamp printed at an angle. It's just been folded that way.
Yeah.
I find the return address provision very interesting, that it's printed on a whole bunch of envelopes printed for RFD number 1, but you can put your own name there if you want. I've never seen that before.
Here we go. Here's the receiving mark. So let's see, it was April 21, got there the next day. So it still took another day to get to, part or a whole of day to get to, 6 a.m. So I got there pretty early.
How far apart are they?
About 20 miles.
In 1902, when, the train hadn't quite been getting much steam that way. So by horse, it took a little while. Here's another interesting one. It's a nice strike of an early RPO, not super early, but 1893 from St. Louis and Kansas City RPO, again on postal stationery. So that went to New York, as you can see, Wall Street. I can't quite make out the name. It looks like something Watson Esquire, probably a lawyer.
Probably Benjamin.
From James Ferguson in St. Louis, Missouri.
So are these postal stationery envelopes embossed? They seem to have a bit of a texture to them in the scans.
Yes.
Yes, they are.
And then the interesting, aside from the RPO, which is great, is this interesting auxiliary marking, Post Office, New York, mail detention.
Mail detention.
And I've seen these before, but I haven't looked up what they mean. They're almost always on the back of the envelopes when I've seen them. I have.
All I found on the auxiliary mail detention is other examples of it, and people saying it was a machine cancel that occurred when the train was late in arriving.
And more postal stationery. This one from Monroe, Louisiana to St. Louis, Missouri. I like collecting what you're about to see very much. They're really interesting and hard to find this clear.
Oh yeah.
So these are receiving RPO markings. They were not universal. They were specific routes, and I don't know all the details as to why they were on these specific routes. Perhaps they were highly traveled in terms of the amount of mail. So you see received St. Louis, Missouri via the St. Louis and Texarkana RPO and the train number. Finding these in very clear strikes is really tough. Okay, next, here's another interesting cover from 1892, sent to the Niagara Hotel in Buffalo, New York from the New England Magazine in Boston, Massachusetts. And there must have been some little weight to this envelope, being that it had 4 cents on it. And again, we have another one of these RPO auxiliary markings. These are known as the fast mail markings, which are mostly known for Buffalo and Chicago. And so these had due times on them. So New York Fast Mail, train 11, due Buffalo, New York, 9:35 a.m. Again, a nice, very clear, the date's a little dull there, but for the most part, it's a nice strike, which is, again, pretty hard to find on these guys. So I have a couple of Canadian items here. Here's McKay Mountain, Fort William, Ontario, picture postcard. And that has this nice Fort William and Winnipeg RPO on it. I love Canadian RPOs because they're a bit of, they're a little, for some reason, all of the post markings are really small. And the strikes are rarely clear. And as you can see on this one, the Fort William is a little hard to read. And the date and the year are all kind of squished together there, all tight in that circular cancellation. So they can be a bit of a mystery to figure out sometimes because the strikes are so poor. Here's another one. There's a registered cover.
Okay.
It's in rough shape, but you'll see why I like it in a moment. From the Royal Albert Hotel in Winnipeg, Manitoba, sent to Mr. Cruz in Toronto, but looks like he was not there. So they ended up going to Amos, Quebec. Hope he got it. Guess he did. And here's the back of the envelope.
Oh.
It has all kinds of fun
Oh
stuff
my
going on.
God.
Nice. Oh my goodness.
I like that.
And so this, if this doesn't tell you the travels of a cover, I don't know what does. And you can see over there to the left a little bit, there's a Montreal and Toronto Grand Trunk Railway RPO postmark kind of on top of a Winnipeg, Canada post office marking. And it's got the cool wax seals on it. It is the Mining Corporation of Canada is what it says on the wax seal.